In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine requests for Anakin to meet him at the Squid Lake Opera show at the theater. It was here where we first learn about the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise, and subsequently lead to believe that Plagueis was Palpatine's master, whom he killed. This scene imprinted a massive change in Anakin, as we'll soon find out through this video. And you'll have to excuse my Palpatine voice in this one, as it's not quite a Darth Sidious voice, but more of a regular Palpatine voice, so it's a little hard to get everything right just in between. But nevertheless, it's a lot better than using a monotone voice for all the characters. Using the novelization for our research, what the full dialogue was, but mainly focusing on Anakin's actions afterwards and how it changed him forever. Our scene takes place just as Anakin sits down to speak with Palpatine. Let's start. Anakin suddenly found the ballet a great deal more interesting than Palpatine's face.
It is said that if one could ever entirely comprehend a single grain of sand, really, truly understand everything about it, one would, at the same time, entirely comprehend the universe. Who's to say that a Sith, by looking inward, sees less than a Jedi does by looking out?
The Jedi. Jedi are good. That's the difference. I don't care who sees what.
What the Jedi are, Palpatine said gently, is a group of very powerful beings you consider to be your comrades, and you are loyal to your friends. I have known that for as long as I have known you, and I admire you for it. But are your friends loyal to you?
Anakin shot him a sudden frown.
What do you mean? Would a true friend ask you to do something that's wrong?
I'm not sure it's wrong, Anakin said. Obi-Wan might have been telling the truth. It was possible. They might only want to catch Sidious. They might really be trying to protect Palpatine. They might. Maybe.
Have they asked you to break the Jedi Code, to violate the Constitution, to betray a friendship, to betray your own values?
Chancellor,
think, Anakin. I have always tried to teach you to think. Yes, Jedi do not think. They know. But those stale answers are not good enough now, in these changing times. Consider their motives. Keep your mind clear of assumptions. The fear of losing power is a weakness of both the Jedi and the Sith.
Anakin sank lower in his seat. Too much had happened in too short of a time. Everything jumbled together in his head, and none of it seemed to make complete sense. Except for what Palpatine said. That made too much sense.
This puts me in mind of an old legend,
Palpatine murmured idly.
Are you familiar with the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Anakin shook his head.
Ah, I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend of a dark lord who had turned his sight inward so deeply that he had come to comprehend and master life itself. And because the two are one, when we see clearly enough, death itself.
Anakin sat up. Was he actually hearing this? He could keep someone safe from death? For a long, long time after leaving the opera house, Anakin sat motionless in his idling speeder, eyes closed, resting his head against the edge of his mechanical hand. The speeder bobbed gently in the air, wakes of passing traffic. He didn't feel it. Klaxons blared, rising and fading as angry pilots swerved around him. He didn't hear them. Finally, he sighed and lifted his head. He stroked a private code into the speeder's comm screen. After a moment, the screen lit up with an image of Padme's half-asleep face.
Anakin.
She rubbed her eyes, blinking.
Where are you? What time is it?
Padme, I can't. He stopped himself, huffing a sigh out through his nose. Listen, Padme, something's come up. I have to spend the night at the temple.
Oh, well, all right, Anakin. I'll miss you.
I'll miss you too, he swallowed. I miss you already. She nodded sleepily, and soon, for the rest of our lives, we'll never have to be apart again.
Rest well.
I'll do my best. You too. She blew him a kiss, and the screen went blank. Anakin fired thrusters and slid through the speeder expertly into traffic, angling towards the Jedi Temple, because that part, the part about spending the night at the temple, was the part that wasn't a lie. The lie was that he was going to rest, that he was going to even try. How could he rest every time he closed his eyes? He could see her screaming on the birthing table. Now the Council's insult burned hotter than ever. He even had a name, a story, a place to start.
Darth Plagueis.
But how could he explain to the Archives Master why he needed to research a Sith legend of immortality? Yet, maybe he didn't need the Archives after all. The Temple was still the greatest nexus of Force energy on the planet, perhaps even the galaxy, and it was unquestionably the best place in the galaxy for intense, focused meditation. He had much he needed the Force to teach him, and a very short time to learn. He would finally start by thinking inward, thinking about himself. I find it very interesting how, after learning about Darth Plagueis, Anakin went directly to the temple to try and ask or learn about his abilities through certain books and scrolls. This leads to a recent video that explains exactly why Anakin wanted to become a master so badly. So, if this was the first real time that Anakin began to think inwards, then why didn't the other masters sense it? This is why, in The Rise of the Darth Vader book, it refers to Mace Windu's death as a sacrifice, something Anakin did to gain knowledge of Darth Plagueis' powers. I also wonder what would have happened if Palpatine never even mentioned his master and his powers. Do you think Anakin would still have turned so easily? I also find it curious to see Anakin lie to Padme about exactly what he was doing. This shows detachment and selfishness. It shows that whatever he was going to do exceeded her trust and needs to know, let alone to be with her that night. Instead, he would go to meditate like a Sith, thinking inwards. What do you think about Anakin going to the temple to search on material regarding ancient Sith lore? Do you think the Masters would have been okay with it if he had even dared to ask them? If you think yes or no, then voice your opinions in the comment section and why you think that. Leave this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's episode of Star Wars Theory. Thank you so much for watching this video, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends. I really appreciate it. Until we meet again, remember,
The Force will be with you, always.
Now, fulfill your destiny.